Dr. Samuel Wright stared at the numbers on his computer screen, then blinked and stared again. The results couldn't be right. He ran his fingers through his graying hair and called out across the lab, "John, could you come look at this?" John Baker, a young research assistant with messy brown hair and thick-rimmed glasses, walked over from his workstation. His footsteps echoed in the vast underground laboratory, bouncing off the stark white walls and humming quantum computers. "What's wrong, Dr. Wright?" John leaned over the older scientist's shoulder, his eyes widening as he scanned the data. "That's impossible." "Run it again," Samuel ordered, pushing back from his desk. Something must be wrong with the quantum sensors. The Nevada facility, buried deep beneath the desert, housed the most advanced quantum research equipment on Earth. For 3 years, they had been studying the effects of human observation on quantum states. But today's results were different. Today, something had changed. John's fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating another test sequence. The massive quantum chamber in the center of the lab hummed to life, its crystalline walls glowing with a soft blue light. Inside, countless quantum particles danced in carefully controlled patterns. The door to the lab slid open with a soft hiss. Lisa Martinez walked in, her military uniform perfectly pressed, her black hair pulled back in a tight bun. As the military liaison to the Quantum Reality Research Division, she made daily visits to check on their progress. "Dr. Wright," she nodded, "you missed this morning's briefing." She stopped short when she saw the expression on his face. "What happened?" Samuel gestured at the screen. "The quantum particles, they're not just responding to observation anymore. They're responding to intention." Lisa frowned. "Explain that in simple terms." John jumped in, his excitement making him stumble over his words. "Usually, quantum particles change their state when we observe them. That's basic quantum mechanics. But now," he pointed to a graph showing wild fluctuations, "they're changing based on what we want them to do. It's like they're reading our minds." "That's not possible," Lisa said flatly. Samuel stood up and walked to the quantum chamber. "Watch this." He placed his hand on the crystal surface and closed his eyes. Inside the chamber, the quantum particles began to move, forming a perfect spiral pattern. "I didn't program that," John whispered. "He just thought it." Lisa's hand moved unconsciously to the foam on her belt. This was above her pay grade. Over the next 12 hours, the lab became a flurry of activity. More scientists were called in. More tests were run. Each one confirmed what they had discovered. Human consciousness could directly influence quantum states, and the effect was growing stronger. At midnight, Samuel sat in his office, surrounded by empty coffee cups and printouts of test results. Lisa stood by the window, looking out at the desert night. "The military will want to weaponize this," she said quietly. Samuel nodded. "I know, but this is bigger than weapons. Don't you see? We've discovered that human consciousness isn't just an observer of reality. It's a force that can shape it." A soft alarm chimed from John's workstation. He had been running continuous tests, trying to understand the limits of their discovery. "Dr. Wright, the effect, it's amplifying itself." They'd rushed to his screen. The graph showed an exponential increase in quantum response to human intention. Samuel's mind raced with the implications. If they could harness this effect, build technology to amplify it. "We need to build a containment device," he said suddenly. "Something that can focus and control this effect. A reality anchor." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "A what?" "Think of it like a lens for human consciousness," Samuel explained, already sketching on a notepad. "If we can amplify and direct this quantum response, we might be able to affect reality itself on a macro scale." John's eyes lit up, like the double-slit experiment, but with everything, Samuel finished. Matter, energy, maybe even local space-time. Lisa watched them work, her military training warring with her wonder at what they were discovering. She knew she should report this immediately, but something made her hesitate. This discovery could change everything. Warfare, technology, the very nature of human civilization. 3 days later, they had built their first prototype reality anchor. It looked deceptively simple, a crystalline sphere about the size of a basketball, filled with quantum-sensitive materials and surrounded by precision-engineered fields. "Are we really going to test this?" John asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Samuel placed his hands on the sphere. "We have to know." Lisa stood by the emergency shutdown controls, ready to cut power if anything went wrong. The air in the lab felt thick with tension. Samuel closed his eyes and concentrated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a pencil on his desk began to rise into the air. "Holy shit," Lisa breathed. The pencil wasn't just levitating. The very concept of gravity around it had changed. John's instruments showed that the local space-time geometry had been altered according to Samuel's mental image. "It works," Samuel said softly, opening his eyes. The pencil clattered back to the desk. "It actually works." "This changes everything," Lisa said, already thinking of the applications. "We'll need to set up a full research program. Project Mindforge." "Mindforge?" John asked. Lisa nodded. "Because we're forging reality itself with our minds now." She pulled out her phone. "I need to make some calls. This is going straight to the top." As Lisa stepped out to contact her superiors, Samuel and John looked at each other. They had just crossed a line that humanity could never uncross. They had discovered that human consciousness, properly focused, could bend reality itself. "What happens now?" John asked. Samuel looked at the reality anchor, its crystal surface reflecting the lab's lights. Now we find out what humanity is really capable of." He picked up his notebook and began writing equations. "This is just the beginning. We need to understand the full implications of this discovery." Outside the lab, in the cool desert night, the stars twinkled unchanged. But beneath the surface, in a secret facility in Nevada, humanity had just taken its first step toward becoming something more than anyone had ever imagined. The universe, though it didn't know it yet, would never be the same. And somewhere, in the vast reaches of space, ancient alien civilizations were about to discover that they had greatly underestimated the species they had long ignored as primitive. Humanity wasn't just evolving. It was about to rewrite the rules of reality itself. The real question was the universe ready for what humanity would become? Samuel looked at the reality anchor again, watching quantum patterns swirl within its crystalline depths. He had a feeling they were about to find out. And somehow, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months after the discovery of reality manipulation, Peter Reynolds sat in a specially designed testing chamber, his hands resting on a new version of the reality anchor. Unlike Dr. Wright's original prototype, this one was smaller, more refined, and far more powerful. "Okay, Peter," Dr. Wright's voice came through the speakers. "Let's try the new sequence." Peter nodded, his young face lined with concentration. At 28, he had shown the strongest natural ability to manipulate quantum states among all the test subjects. Some joked that his previous job as a library assistant had given him plenty of practice imagining different realities. Behind the observation window, Lisa Martinez watched with Dr. Wright and John Baker. Dozens of screens showed Peter's brain activity, quantum fluctuations, and local space-time measurements. "He's getting stronger," John said, checking the readings. "The effect is almost twice as powerful as last week." Before anyone could respond, every alarm in the facility began blaring at once. Red lights flashed as emergency systems activated. "What's happening?" Lisa demanded, her hand moving to her sidearm. John's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Massive energy signature detected. It's above the facility." The ceiling seemed to vibrate with a deep, resonating hum. Then, every screen in the facility changed to show the same image. A sleek, silver ship hovering over the Nevada desert. It was enormous, at least a mile long, its surface rippling like liquid metal. "Get Peter out of the testing chamber," Lisa ordered. "Now." But before they could move, a new voice filled the facility. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, speaking perfect English with an odd musical quality. "People of Earth, this is Ambassador Zixtal of the Galactic Concordat. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic contact." The humans looked at each other in shock. First contact. It was actually happening. Hours later, they sat in the facility's main conference room with their alien visitor. Ambassador Zixtal looked almost human, except for their silver skin and completely black eyes. They wore what looked like flowing robes made of living metal. "We have been watching your species for some time," Zixtal explained, their voice still carrying that strange musical quality. "Your rapid technological advancement caught our attention. But now," they paused, their black eyes fixing on the reality anchor Peter had been using. "Now you have done something that changes everything." Dr. Wright leaned forward. "You know about quantum manipulation." Zixtal's silver skin rippled with what might have been concern. "Know about it. It is the one technology that is absolutely forbidden in the Concordat. Over 1,000 species, spanning 3 galactic arms, all agree on this one rule. Consciousness-driven quantum manipulation must never be developed." "Why?" Lisa asked, her voice sharp. "Because it can unravel the very fabric of reality," Zixtal said. "Many species discovered it. All of them caused disasters before agreeing to ban the research. Reality is not meant to bend to conscious will." Peter spoke up for the first time. "But we've been using it safely. We can control it." The ambassador turned those black eyes on him. "You think you can control it? Watch." They pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared in the center of the conference table, showing a star system none of them recognized. This was the Proxon system, 3,000 years ago. The hologram showed a bustling civilization spread across several planets. They developed quantum manipulation technology. They thought they could control it too. The image changed. Now the star system was different. The planets were twisted, their shapes impossible. Space itself seemed to be tied in knots. "This is the same system now," Zixtal said quietly. "Reality itself broke. Nothing can live there. Nothing makes sense there. The laws of physics themselves have been permanently warped." A heavy silence fell over the room. Finally, Dr. Wright spoke. "What exactly are you asking us to do?" "We are not asking," Zixtal said. "We are telling you. Destroy your quantum manipulation technology. End all research, or the Concordat will be forced to take action to protect the fabric of reality itself." Lisa stood up, her chair scraping back. "Is that a threat?" "It is a warning," Zixtal replied calmly. "You have 1 Earth month to comply. We will be watching." With that, the ambassador stood and simply vanished, teleporting back to their ship. Through the conference room windows, they watched as the massive vessel rose higher and higher before disappearing in a flash of light. "Well," John said into the silence, "that could have gone better." Dr. Wright was already pulling out his notebook, scribbling equations. "Did you notice? Their teleportation technology, their ship's propulsion. It all manipulates quantum states. They're hypocrites." "They're scared," Peter said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "You saw how the ambassador reacted when they looked at me. They're not afraid of the technology. They're afraid of how good humans are at using it." Lisa pulled out her phone. "I need to contact my superiors. This goes way beyond our project now." "What do you think they'll decide?" John asked. "I don't know," Lisa admitted, "but I know what I'm going to recommend. We don't stop. We accelerate the research." Dr. Wright looked up from his equations. The ambassador wasn't lying about the risks. This technology really could break reality if we're not careful. "Then we'll be careful," Lisa said firmly. "But I'm not about to let some alien federation tell humanity what we can and can't research, especially when they're clearly using similar technology themselves." Peter walked to the window, looking up at the sky where the alien ship had been. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "And next time, they won't be diplomatic." "Then we better be ready," Lisa replied. "Dr. Wright, how quickly can you scale up the Reality Anchor program?" Samuel looked at his equations, then at Peter, then at the sky. "With unlimited resources, maybe 2 weeks to have a working prototype of a more powerful version." "You've got 1 week," Lisa said. "I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get." As they left the conference room to begin their work, none of them noticed Peter lingering behind. He placed his hand on the window and concentrated slightly. Outside, a small patch of air shimmered and twisted, the laws of physics briefly bending to his will. He smiled. The aliens were right to be afraid. They just didn't know how right they were. The universe was about to learn why you don't threaten humanity, and reality itself would never be the same. Amanda Cole walked through the underground facility, her boots clicking on the polished floor. In just 2 weeks since the alien ultimatum, the Nevada Research Center had tripled in size. New labs stretched for miles underground, all focused on one goal: pushing the boundaries of reality manipulation. She reached the main testing chamber, where Peter Reynolds was working with the newest version of the Reality Anchor. Christopher Hughes, their military strategist, stood watching through the reinforced window. "How's he doing?" Amanda asked, adjusting her lab coat. Christopher didn't take his eyes off the chamber. "Watch." Inside, Peter held his hands over 2 reality anchors at once. The air around him rippled like heat waves over hot pavement. Then, slowly, a bubble of altered space formed between the devices. Inside the bubble, water flowed upward, fire burned cold, and light moved like syrup. "He's creating what we're calling a probability storm," Christopher explained. "A space where normal physics just breaks down." Amanda checked the readings on her tablet. "The energy output is incredible." "How is he controlling 2 anchors at once?" "He's not just controlling them," Christopher said. "He's starting to not need them at all." The intercom crackled. Peter's voice came through, calm despite the impossible things happening around him. "Ready to try the combat sequence." Christopher pressed the intercom button. "Go ahead." Peter closed his eyes. The probability storm collapsed, then reformed as a spinning vortex. Anything that entered it came out changed. Rubber turned to steel, air turned to crystal, energy turned to matter, and back again. "Imagine facing that on a battlefield," Christopher said quietly. Before Amanda could respond, Lisa Martinez burst into the observation room. "We've got trouble." The Concordat just sent another message. "They're not waiting for the month to be up." "How long do we have?" Christopher demanded. "Their ships just appeared in orbit. Hundreds of them." Lisa's face was grim. "They're demanding our immediate surrender and the execution of all reality manipulation research staff." Amanda's hands tightened on her tablet. "They're scared of what we've achieved." "They should be." Peter's voice came through the intercom. He hadn't stopped his testing sequence. The probability storm now filled the entire chamber, reality twisting and reshaping itself according to his will. Christopher was already moving. "Lisa, get me a direct line to command." "Amanda, how close are we to having portable reality anchors ready?" "The prototypes are ready," Amanda said. "We can have 100 units manufactured within 24 hours. "Do it," Lisa ordered. "And get Dr. Wright in here. We need his expertise on scaling up the effects." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. While alien ships loomed in orbit, humanity prepared its defense. Dr. Wright and Amanda worked on miniaturizing the reality anchors. Christopher developed combat strategies for weapons that broke the laws of physics. And Peter kept pushing the limits of what was possible. In the main lab, Dr. Wright looked up from his work to see Peter creating something new. "What is that?" Peter stood in the center of a sphere of twisted space. "I call it a narrative field. Instead of just changing physical laws, it changes cause and effect itself. Watch." He threw a pencil into the air. Instead of falling, it transformed into a flock of origami birds, which then merged into a stream of liquid light, which finally reformed as the original pencil, except now it wrote in any color its user thought of. "The possibilities are endless," Peter said. "We're not just breaking physics anymore. We're rewriting it." Amanda walked in, carrying a box of newly manufactured portable reality anchors. They looked like silver bracelets, each containing a miniaturized version of the original crystal sphere. "These are ready," she said. 100 units, just as promised. Each one can generate a localized reality distortion field. Christopher picked one up, examining it. "Have you tested them in combat scenarios?" "Better." Amanda smiled. "We tested them against simulated versions of the Concordat's known weapons. Their energy beams, their plasma weapons, their quantum torpedoes. None of them work in our distortion fields." Lisa entered the lab, talking on her phone. She hung up and addressed the room. "The Concordat just issued their final warning. We have 1 hour to surrender, or they start their attack." "Let them come," Peter said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He stood in the center of his narrative field, reality bending around him like light through a prism. They think they know what they're dealing with. They don't. Dr. Wright stepped forward. "Peter, the amount of power you're channeling. It's more than we've ever tested. Are you sure you can control it?" Peter smiled. "I'm not controlling it, Dr. Wright. I'm letting it flow. Humans don't just observe quantum states or manipulate them. We dream them. We imagine them. Every science fiction story, every dream of impossible things. We've been practicing for this our whole existence as a species." The lights flickered as alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Lisa's phone buzzed with urgent messages. "They're starting their attack," she announced. "Multiple ships entering the atmosphere." Christopher was already coordinating with military command. "All reality anchor teams, prepare for deployment. Remember your training. Reality itself is now our weapon." Amanda distributed the portable anchors to the defense teams. 1 hour until full production of the next batch. After that, we can start equipping regular military units. Peter walked to the window, looking up at the sky through layers of rock and earth. His narrative field spread out around him, growing stronger by the second. "They think we're an infection in reality," he said, "a disease that needs to be cured. But we're not a disease. We're an evolution. Reality has been static for too long. It's time for it to grow, to change, to become more than it was." Dr. Wright watched as reality rippled and twisted around his former test subject. "What are you going to do?" Peter's eyes gleamed with something that wasn't quite human anymore. "I'm going to show them why they were right to be afraid. Not because we're dangerous, but because we're necessary. The universe needs to change, and humanity. Humanity is the catalyst." Above them, alien ships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere. They came as gods, wielding power that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. They were about to learn that humanity had become something new, something that didn't just bend reality, but dreamed new realities into being. The war for reality itself was about to begin. Captain Daniel Morrison stood on the bridge of the QSS Nightmare, Earth's first reality warping battleship. Through the view screen, he watched alien vessels descend through the atmosphere like falling stars. "All reality anchor teams report ready," his first officer announced. Daniel nodded, his hands resting on the command console. The ship hummed with power, its hull lined with hundreds of reality anchors working in perfect sync. Dr. Karen Phillips, their quantum psychology specialist, sat at a nearby station, monitoring the crew's mental states. "Remember," Karen said to the bridge crew, "your emotions will affect the reality fields. Stay focused, stay calm, but don't suppress your feelings. Use them." The first alien ship fired. A beam of pure energy, hot as a sun, lanced toward the Nightmare. Daniel didn't even need to give an order. The crew's collective will, amplified by the reality anchors, turned the deadly beam into a shower of harmless butterflies. "They're going to need a minute to process that," Daniel said with a small smile. returned fire. The Nightmare's weapons weren't conventional. Instead of missiles or energy beams, it fired shells of altered space-time. Where they hit, reality itself unraveled and rewove itself according to human imagination. An alien ship vanished into what looked like a painting of a ship. Another found itself suddenly operating under cartoon physics. A third began broadcasting human television commercials instead of weapon energy. In the Nevada facility, Peter Reynolds watched the battle through specially designed sensors. He turned to Dr. Wright. "It's time." Dr. Wright nodded. "Are you sure you're ready?" Instead of answering, Peter closed his eyes. His narrative field expanded, growing larger than ever before. Up in the battle, reality began to change on a massive scale. The alien ships found themselves in what Peter called an impossibility zone. Their weapons didn't just fail, they couldn't exist. Their technology, based on rigid laws of physics, simply stopped working. It was like trying to speak a language that no longer had any words. On the Nightmare's bridge, Karen's instruments went wild. The emotional output is off the charts. Every human in the battle zone is contributing to the effect. Daniel watched as more alien ships fell into the impossibility zone. Some tried to retreat, their engines straining against laws of physics that no longer made sense. Others simply hung in the air, dead in space. A transmission cut through all frequencies. Ambassador Zixtel's voice rang with horror. "What have you done? Do you realize what you're unleashing?" "We're defending ourselves," Daniel replied calmly. "You came to our world. You threatened our people. Did you think we would just surrender?" "You don't understand." Zixtel's voice shook. "The reality distortions. They're spreading. They're becoming self-sustaining." In the facility below, Peter opened his eyes. They glowed with an inner light, reality itself bending around his thoughts. "They're right," he said to Dr. Wright, "but not in the way they think." Through the reality anchors, through the combined will of humanity, something new was happening. The changes weren't breaking reality. They were evolving it. Every human involved in the battle was unconsciously contributing to a new pattern, a new way for reality to exist. Karen's voice came over the facility's comm system. "Dr. Wright, you need to see this. The quantum patterns, they're replicating, growing, learning. It's beautiful, isn't it?" Peter said softly. "Reality isn't just bending anymore. It's awakening." Above, the battle had turned into something else entirely. The alien ships were trapped in bubbles of human imagination, where their weapons turned into songs, their shields became dreams, and their mighty engines powered nothing but stories. The Nightmare moved through the chaos like a shark through water. Its crew had stopped thinking of reality as something fixed and started seeing it as something to shape, to mold, to reimagine. "Target their flagship," Daniel ordered. "Show them what happens when you push humanity too far." The Nightmare's reality anchors pulsed. A wave of pure possibility washed over the alien flagship. For a moment, it existed in every possible state at once, as a ship, as a thought, as a memory, as a wish. Ambassador Zixtel's voice came again, this time filled with awe and fear. "Stop. Please. We surrender." Daniel looked at his crew, saw the same expression on all their faces. They weren't just winning a battle. They were changing the rules of existence itself. "All ships, hold fire," he ordered, "but maintain the reality fields." In the facility below, Peter turned to Dr. Wright. "They still don't understand. This was never about winning or losing. It's about evolution." Dr. Wright watched the readings on his screens. The reality distortions weren't fading. They were stabilizing, becoming permanent features of space-time. "What exactly are we becoming?" Peter smiled. "Something new. Something necessary. The universe has been static for too long, bound by laws that never changed. Humanity isn't breaking those laws. We're teaching reality how to grow." Karen's voice came over the comm again. "The alien ships are retreating. But the quantum changes. They're still spreading. Reality itself is different now, at least in this part of space. Let them retreat, Peter said. Let them tell the Concordat what happened here. Let them understand that humanity isn't just another species to be controlled or destroyed. We're the beginning of reality's next great leap forward. Daniel's voice joined the conversation from the nightmare. What do we do now? Now, Peter looked up at the changed sky, where physics itself had learned to dream. Now we show the universe what reality can become when it's not afraid to change. The Concordat thought they were protecting existence by keeping it rigid, unchanging. We're going to show them that true stability comes from growth, from evolution, from imagination. Dr. Wright watched as the alien ships fled Earth's space, leaving behind a region where reality itself had learned new tricks. They'll be back, he said, with more ships, more weapons. Let them come, Peter replied. Every human who witnessed this battle now knows what we can do. Every reality anchor user just learned that the impossible is just the beginning. We're not going back to the old ways. Reality itself won't let us. Above them, the sky had changed color, showing patterns that had never existed before. The laws of physics had learned to bend, to dance, to play, and humanity had taken its first steps toward becoming something more than anyone, even themselves, had imagined possible. The universe would never be the same, and that, Peter knew, was exactly what it needed. General Richard Taylor stood at the window of his office in the newly established Reality Defense Command, watching the strange patterns that now colored the sky over Nevada. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's first victory against the Concordat, and Earth had changed more than anyone could have imagined. Dr. Michel Rodriguez entered his office, carrying a tablet filled with the latest test results. The probability fortresses are ready, sir. Richard nodded. Every major city on Earth now had a network of reality anchors protecting it. But these weren't just shields. They were spaces where reality itself fought back against any threat. Show me, he said. Michel pulled up a hologram showing New York City. A dome of altered space covered the metropolis, shimmering with impossible colors. We've linked the fortress to the collective unconscious of the city's population. The more people believe in their safety, the stronger the protection becomes. And the offensive capabilities. Michelle smiled. That's where it gets interesting. She changed the hologram to show a recent test. We've discovered that human creativity can be weaponized directly. Every story, every dream, every wild imagination. They all affect the quantum field now. In the testing chamber below the command center, Peter Reynolds worked with a team of new reality shapers. Since the battle, hundreds of humans had developed similar abilities. It was as if the first use of reality manipulation had awakened something dormant in human consciousness. Again, Peter commanded. The trainees raised their hands, reality anchors glowing on their wrists. The air between them twisted, folded, and transformed. What was once empty space became a cascade of possibilities. Every dream, every nightmare, every wild thought made real. Dr. Wright watched from the observation deck, taking notes. Their power is growing exponentially, he said to Lisa Martinez, who stood beside him. It's like reality itself is learning from us, becoming more flexible. Lisa pointed to one of the screens showing distant space. The Concordat is gathering a massive fleet. Our deep space sensors show thousands of ships. Let them come. Peter's voice came through the intercom. In the chamber below, he had created something new. A field where probability itself danced to human imagination. We're not the same species they threatened a month ago. In orbit, the QSS Nightmare patrolled with its sister ships, each vessel now crewed by humans who could reshape reality with a thought. Captain Morrison's fleet had grown, humanity rushing to build more ships equipped with reality anchors. Contact. The alert rang through every command center on Earth. Multiple Concordat fleets entering the solar system. General Taylor straightened his uniform. This is it, people. Battle stations. But this wasn't going to be like any battle in human history. As the alien fleets approached, humanity unveiled its new defenses. The probability fortresses activated worldwide. Cities disappeared behind veils of altered space, where missiles turned to music and energy beams became light shows. Earth itself seemed to shift, its very existence becoming fluid, adaptable. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the quantum readings from her station. The narrative fields are holding. Reality is responding exactly as we predicted. On screens worldwide, Ambassador Zixtel's face appeared. You leave us no choice. The Concordat has voted. Your species must be eliminated before you unravel the fabric of existence itself. Peter stepped forward in the command center, his eyes glowing with inner light. You still don't understand. We're not unraveling existence. We're teaching it to dance. The alien fleet opened fire, but Earth was ready. Every human mind connected to a reality anchor pushed back, their collective imagination becoming more real than the rigid laws of physics the aliens relied on. Concordat ships found themselves trapped in bubbles where time ran backward. Others faced weapons pulled straight from humanity's wildest science fiction stories. Some simply vanished, shifted into realities where the war had never begun. Status report, General Taylor demanded. The probability fortresses are holding, Michelle reported. More than holding. They're growing. Each attack makes them stronger, as if reality itself is learning from the conflict. In space, Captain Morrison led the Nightmare and its sister ships in maneuvers that should have been impossible. They phased through enemy fire, appeared in multiple places at once, turned alien technology against itself. Sir, a technician called out. The Concordat fleet, it's fragmenting. Some of their ships are turning against each other. On the main screen, they could see it happening. The alien fleet was dividing. Some ships continued their attack, while others pulled back, their crews apparently unwilling to face what humanity had become. Peter watched the battle with a strange smile. They're beginning to understand. Their own people are starting to see what we've known all along. Reality isn't meant to be rigid. It's meant to grow, to change, to evolve. In the quantum laboratory, Dr. Wright and Dr. Rodriguez made a stunning discovery. The changes we've made to reality, they're becoming permanent, Michelle announced. Even in areas where there are no reality anchors, physics itself has started to adapt. It's like we've taught the universe new tricks, Dr. Wright said, studying the readings. And it's eager to learn more. General Taylor received reports from around the world. Every probability fortress was holding. Every human reality shaper was growing stronger. And the alien fleet was in chaos. They're retreating, Lisa announced. The majority of the Concordat fleet is pulling back. But Peter shook his head. This isn't over. Look. He pointed to the long-range sensors. More ships were coming. The rest of the Concordat's forces, summoned for one final attempt to stop humanity's transformation of reality. How many? General Taylor asked. All of them, Lisa said quietly. They're sending everything they have. Peter turned to face the assembled leaders of Earth's defense. Good. Let them come. Every battle teaches reality new ways to bend. Every conflict makes us stronger. They think they're trying to stop us from changing the universe. His eyes flashed with that inner light again. They're actually helping us remake it. Above them, the sky continued to shimmer with impossible colors. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what humanity would dream up next. The final battle was coming, not just for Earth's survival, but for the very nature of existence itself. And humanity was ready. Ready to show the universe that change wasn't something to fear. Ready to prove that reality itself could learn to dream. Benjamin Foster stood in the center of Earth's largest reality manipulation chamber, surrounded by hundreds of reality anchors. As humanity's most skilled reality architect, he had one job: to change the rules of the universe itself. The Concordat's main fleet will be here in 10 minutes, Laura Anderson, their quantum diplomatic officer, announced from her station. Over 10,000 ships. Above them, the sky had become a canvas of impossible colors. Reality itself seemed to twist and turn, responding to the collective will of humanity. Every human with a reality anchor, from the military crews to civilian defenders, waited for the coming battle. "Are you ready?" Dr. Wright asked Benjamin. Benjamin nodded, his eyes already glowing with inner light. "I've been practicing the Reality Cascade. Once it starts, there's no going back. The universe itself will have to change." Peter Reynolds entered the chamber, his own power having grown beyond the need for reality anchors. "We'll do it together, all of us." On the QSS Nightmare, Captain Morrison watched as the massive alien fleet emerged from hyperspace. Their ships filled the sky, a wall of advanced technology meant to crush humanity's rebellion against the laws of physics. "All reality anchor teams, prepare for synchronized activation," he ordered. "Remember your training. Reality isn't our enemy, it's our partner." Ambassador Zixfel's voice boomed across all frequencies. "This is your final chance. Surrender now, or face the combined might of the Concordat. We will not allow you to destroy the fabric of existence." Laura Anderson stepped forward in the command center. "Ambassador, you still don't understand. We're not destroying anything. We're helping the universe evolve. Reality itself wants to change. You've just been holding it back." "Impossible," Zixtal declared. "Reality is fixed. Its laws are absolute." "Watch," Benjamin said softly. He raised his hands, and the reality cascade began. It started small, a ripple in space-time that spread outward from Earth. Where it passed, reality became fluid, malleable. The rigid laws of physics began to bend, not breaking but transforming into something new. The alien fleet opened fire. Trillions of watts of energy lanced toward Earth, but humanity was ready. In New York, a probability fortress didn't just stop the attacks, it turned them into flowers of light. In Tokyo, incoming missiles became origami cranes that flew back to their ships. In London, energy beams twisted into Celtic knots of pure possibility. "The reality cascade is spreading," Dr. Rodriguez reported from her station. "It's affecting everything in the solar system." Benjamin and Peter worked together, their powers combining with every human reality shaper on Earth. They weren't just defending anymore. They were rewriting the fundamental constants of the universe. What are you doing?" Zixtal's voice shook with fear and awe. "We're teaching the universe how to dream," Benjamin replied. "Every story humanity has ever told, every dream we've ever had, they're all becoming part of reality itself." The Concordat fleet found itself trapped in a space where their technology couldn't function, not because it was broken, but because reality itself had learned new rules. Ships that ran on rigid physics now floated in a sea of infinite possibility. "Look," Laura pointed to the readings. "Some of their crews, they're beginning to shape reality too." She was right. Across the alien fleet, individuals were discovering that they also had the power to affect reality. The human gift was spreading, teaching others that the universe didn't have to be bound by unchanging laws. "General Taylor," Captain Morrison called from the nightmare. "The enemy fleet, half of them have stopped firing. They're watching, learning." In the reality chamber, Benjamin initiated the final stage of the cascade. Reality itself seemed to pause, as if taking a deep breath. Then, like a wave of pure creation, possibility spread outward from Earth in all directions. "My God," Dr. Wright whispered. "The fundamental constants, they're not constant anymore. They're adaptive." He was right. The speed of light, the force of gravity, the strong and weak nuclear forces, they all became fluid, responding to conscious intention while somehow maintaining the stability of existence itself. Ambassador Zixtal, Laura broadcast, "Look around you. Reality isn't breaking. It's growing. Your own people can feel it. The universe wants this change." On screens throughout the command center, they could see it happening. Alien crews were emerging from their ships, their own consciousness beginning to affect the space around them. The rigid hierarchy of the Concordat was dissolving in the face of a universe that responded to imagination. "This is impossible," Zixtal whispered, but the fear in their voice had been replaced by wonder. No, Benjamin said gently. This is evolution. The universe has been waiting for a species brave enough to take this step, to show reality itself that it can be more than just a set of unchanging rules. The Reality Cascade had reached the edge of the solar system now, spreading faster than light through the galaxy. Wherever it touched, consciousness and reality began to dance together in new ways. The Concordat fleet is standing down, Captain Morrison reported. All ships. They're asking for teachers. Laura smiled. They want to learn what we've discovered, not just about manipulating reality, but about dreaming with it, growing with it. In orbit, alien ships and human vessels floated side by side in space that rippled with new possibilities. Reality itself had changed, becoming something that could change, adapt, and grow. So what happens now? General Taylor asked, looking at the shimmering sky. Peter and Benjamin exchanged glances. Now, Peter said, we teach. We show the universe what imagination can do. We help reality itself learn how to play. Dr. Wright checked his readings one final time. The changes are stable. Reality has found a new equilibrium, one that allows for both physical laws and conscious creation to coexist. Laura was already receiving messages from across the alien fleet. They're not just asking for teachers, they're offering to share their own discoveries. Different species are already finding their own unique ways to shape reality. The universe isn't surrendering to us, Benjamin realized. It's surrendering to possibility itself, to the idea that existence can be more than we ever imagined. Above them, the sky continued to shimmer with new colors that had never existed before. Reality itself seemed to sing with potential, ready for whatever humanity, and all conscious beings, would dream up next. The war was over. The revolution of reality itself had begun, and humanity had shown the universe that the only constant that truly mattered was the power of imagination to shape what was possible. In the reality chamber, Benjamin created one final display, a dance of light and energy that spelled out humanity's message to the cosmos. Reality is not a cage. It's a canvas. Let's paint something beautiful together. The universe, at last, was ready to dream.